What's up, Melody Ever After? Today's video is for Dungeons & Dragons DMs, writers, or just people who are really interested in world building. One thing that I notice about people who want to start a D&D campaign, their writing project, their own novel, whatever, is that they have this really cool idea for a story. They have these great characters and these great villains and this great idea about how this is going to work or how these two characters are going to interact. But then you plop them down in their setting and it's just empty. Today's video is for the world builders who are brand new to world building. As a Dungeons & Dragons DM and someone who's dabbled in writing for a long time, I'm going to be giving you exactly how I build my worlds and the easiest way to do so. Let's get cracking. The first thing you want to think about when you're building your world is architectural vibes. What do you want your world to look like? Where do you envision your characters? What do the buildings look like? Then think about real world references. Is it similar to ancient Greece, Gothic London, Mayan ruins in Mexico, or the Amazons? Whatever it looks like, I would really suggest doing research on these types of communities and these types of settings that happened in real life. For example, if you want a jungle setting and you want like Mayan-esque temples, then maybe look up Incan and Mayan type cultures and do a lot of research about their customs, their sports, their vibes, all their religions, their architecture. Do real life research about those places. This is where you're gonna start getting into J.R.R. Tolkien territory. You really have to put in the work and do the research if you're going to be basing it on a real life time period. This goes for Gothic London. This goes for any Renaissance period. If it is in any way similar to a real life time period or place, do your research about that real life time period or place. When you're also thinking about architectural vibes, I want you to also think about the styles of the buildings. How would the people in these building styles dress? How would they act? You don't want someone with an 1800s Gone with the Wind dressed in the middle of the Parthenon. That doesn't make any sense. Mirror your characters to their surroundings. You really want some cohesiveness there. That's why this part of world building is so important, just establishing where the hell you are. The next thing you want to think about is religion. Think about what you want the main religion in your area to be. What kind of god do they worship? Do they maybe worship a sun god? Do they maybe worship an ocean god? Do they not have a real religion but something similar in Dune, or something kind of like Buddhism where the power comes from inside of each individual person? Think about the kind of religion that you want in that area, and not everyone has to follow it. Not everyone has to follow a religion. But by establishing the main religions in the area that you are working with, you're also going to be establishing a simple moral code among the society. You're going to be developing in your mind what the temples and what the worship looks like. Additionally to this, people even in everyday conversation in real life will say, "Oh my God," or "thank heavens," or whatever. By establishing the kind of religion that you are working with, you're also going to be able to work in some dialogue. I mean, in D&D and a lot of fantasy related culture, people say, "thank the gods," or "what in the hells," because there are actually multiple gods or multiple hells. This is just going to give your story a little bit more depth when it comes to dialogue and culture. And the third final big thing you want to think about when you are world building is agriculture. Where do your people get their food from? Do they farm their food? Are they a farming community, a vegetarian community? Are they foragers? Are they hunters? Do they farm dinosaurs? Do they farm cattle? Do they farm giant turtles? It is literally up to you. But this is going to help you in multiple ways. By deciding where your characters get their food, you are also inherently deciding what kind of environment they're going to be in. If the main dish on every single menu and every single cantina is a iguana on a stick, you're probably going to be in some kind of desert. So there are multiple ways that deciding how the characters in the story are going to get their food also inherently decide the type of environment they are in. But what else can it help? It can also influence your world's trade system. Well, over here we have Kandor, and Kandor is exclusively known for farming velociraptors. A huge export from Kandor is velociraptor scales. It's used for armor, it's used for this, it's used for that. What kind of economic stance does your country have? Does your world have? By determining different imports and exports from different areas of your world, you are also inherently determining the kinds of economics. Your agriculture, that's your wood, your plants, your textiles, your food. That's really going to tell you more about the world that you live in and the environment you live in. So now that you have architectural style, religion, and food, you probably have a somewhat idea of where this city is set. The buildings look like this, the temples look like this, their god looks like this, and you know that their food looks like this, so the backdrop probably looks like this. So boom, there you have it. Your basic city area. You can rinse and repeat and do this for areas all over your map. But be sure to take into consideration temperate climate. This is a globe. Typically, the globe has a sun. Typically, it is warmer around the center of the globe, or the equator. If your country is right here, maybe make the temperate climate make sense, unless you want to give it multiple suns, or you have a thing where the hottest part of the planet is actually around the vertical axis of the planet. If you want to play around with it, that's fine. But be sure that you have in mind where these countries are in relation to each other so that you can properly develop the temperatures and climates and properly allocate the right resources for those things.
Melody, I literally, okay, this is my first book ever. This is my first D&D campaign ever. I don't want to do a whole world. This just takes place in one place.
Okay, fine. Then just do one place. You can always fill in the rest of the things later, or not even fill them in at all. You have your first city. Look at it. It's beautiful. It's amazing. This is so super cool. I wish I lived here. Now we need to think about the things that are really going to drive the story. Usually in many D&D campaigns, books, etc., there's some kind of government, whether it's a kingdom, a dystopian society, or something like that. You need to determine what the government system is going to be. Are there caste systems? Is there a hierarchy of people? Do different people do different jobs? What kind of community is this? This is all going to be determined on your government type. Government type is going to go under this giant umbrella: architecture, religion, and agriculture. Underneath that, we have government type, and then what comes next? Resources. Why do resources come next? Because what does every government fight over? Resources. Maybe your world is the only remaining place in the entire universe where dragons still roam. Maybe you have a very special kind of metal that is super strong that a lot of people want to use for military effort. Maybe you have a really, really dense farming community and the rest of the world is super famished. Whatever it is, think about the resources that are going to make your area unique. Then think about, have there been previous wars? Are there people that are trying to get these resources? What's going on economically in relation to these resources? Which brings me to the final thing you need for the bones of building a world: history. Think about the history of the area that you want to be in. Maybe they've very recently started practicing a new religion, or maybe this country has been diseased with this plague that's been going on for centuries. Maybe there was a war 1,000 years ago that killed an entire group of monsters, and now one has been found. Whatever it is, thinking about the rich history of your area is gonna help bring more depth to your story. It doesn't have to be something that's inherently a part of the storyline, but it's going to give your characters other things to talk about other than each other. Think about real life conversations. We talk about politics, we talk about history, we talk about different cultures and different things. We don't just talk about our relationships with one another and how we feel about each other all the time. You're going to have to give your characters prompts of other things to talk about to make them dynamic. This is a great way to develop the world around you and also really hone in the kinds of places that your characters are going to be in. So you understand what I'm saying and you get it, but you're not confident that you can just come up with all this stuff on the fly because your world still looks like this. It's roomy. It could use a few decorations, I'm not gonna lie. Go ahead and screenshot this template right here. And if you don't know all the answers, that's fine. Just make something up. pretty soon, you'll be able to have a pretty clear picture of what you want your world to look like. So I've given you the bare bones of how I create a world as a dungeon master and as someone who does a lot of creative writing. And I've also given you a few exercises on how to develop this world and make it more dynamic and interesting for the characters in it. The most important piece of advice to world building is to not be too hard on yourself and to have fun. World building isn't something that is supposed to be stressful. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a creative challenge. So really make it a creative challenge for yourself rather than something that you feel compelled to do. So there you have it, my basic bones of building a world. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you checked out my channel. I'm Melody Ever After. I'm a pop culture commentary channel. I like to do videos about video games, movies, Dungeons and Dragons, lots of nerdy stuff. So if any of that interests you, I would really appreciate it if you came over to my channel and checked me out. In the meantime, you've been watching Melody Ever After. Bye.